Welcome to this edition of News Today, a series where we briefly discuss and analyze important news of the day. Without delay, let's explore the headlines first. Maratha military landscapes to be India's nomination for UNESCO World Heritage List for 2024-25. During Pariksha Pe Charcha 2024, PM cautioned students against excessive screen time. Crowd mismanagement at religious gathering in Delhi has led to injuries. A report titled The Indian Economy, a Review has been released by the Department of Economic Affairs. Framework for voluntary carbon market in agriculture sector has been launched by Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. World Health Organization has awarded countries for progress in eliminating industrially produced trans fat for the first time. Starting with the first news. Maratha military landscapes to be India's nomination for UNESCO World Heritage List for 2024-25. There are three categories of nomination: cultural, natural and mixed. Maratha military landscapes developed between 17th and 19th centuries are nominated in cultural category. For inclusion in the World Heritage List, a site must meet one of the 10 selection criteria. Maratha military landscapes of India included in tentative list of World Heritage Sites in 2021. They represent an extraordinary fortification and military system envisioned by Maratha rulers. 12 components of this nomination are from Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu. Except Jinji Fort, all are from Maharashtra. These 12 forts are divided into hill forts, which includes Shivneri, Lohgarh, Raigarh, Rajgarh and Jinji; hill forest fort, which is Pratapgarh; hill plateau fort, which consists Panhala; coastal fort of Vijayadurg; island forts of Khanderi, Suvarnadurg and Sindhudurg. Let's now also discuss and know about major forts. First is the Raigarh Fort, where coronation or Shivrajya Abhishek of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj was conducted and he made it his capital in 1674 AD. Next is Shivneri, where Shivaji was born but he never ruled the fort. Third is Sindhudurg, which was built on an island in Konkan region during Shivaji's reign. And last is Pratapgarh, where the encounter between Shivaji and Afzal Khan took place. Now also let's have a look at India's World Heritage Sites. There are mainly 42 sites, out of which 34 are cultural sites, 7 are natural sites, whereas 1 is mixed site. If we talk about Maharashtra's other World Heritage Sites, cultural sites include Ajanta Caves, Ellora Caves, Elephanta Caves, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Terminus, formerly known as Victoria Terminus, Victorian Gothic and Art Deco ensembles of Mumbai, and natural sites are Western Ghats of Maharashtra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and Kerala. Moving on to the next news. During Pariksha Pe Charcha 2024, PM cautioned students against excessive screen time. The negative impacts of excessive screen time include cutting off time for physical activities, leading to health issues such as obesity, sleep disorders, depression, and anxiety. Additionally, it negatively affects child's cognitive development, reducing social skills and the ability to read non-verbal emotional cues like empathy. The Prime Minister also warned against the exposure of illicit and harmful content that child might encounter during unsupervised screen time. This includes pornography, violent imagery, anonymous trolling, and cyber frauds, potentially influencing children's values and behavior. Unsupervised screen time may lead to percolation of negative values like misogyny, bullying, and self-harm. Studies have linked excessive screen time to developmental problems, including speech disorders, learning disabilities, autism, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or ADHD. Despite the cautionary notes, limited and supervised screen time can have positive impacts. Technology, when used responsibly, can improve learning through ebooks, play-based learning apps, and educational content on social media. It can also enhance creativity, allowing children to showcase skills like video editing and content creation. Moving forward, there are some recommendations for parents. For infants, the World Health Organization recommends no screen time for those under 2 years old and no more than 1 hour a day for those aged between 2 to 4. Additionally, parents to control and filter are important to block access to products and content not suitable for children. Moving ahead, crowd mismanagement at a religious gathering in Delhi has led to injuries. Crowd management is a public security practice involving planning, organizing and monitoring large gatherings of people to prevent the outbreak of crowd crushes, fights or riots, and protect infrastructure. One of the primary causes of disasters related to crowd mismanagement is structural failure. This includes incidents such as collapse of barricades, railings, or even entire structures. An example of this is the bridge collapse in Morbi town, Gujarat, back in 2022. Another significant concern is the outbreak of fire. Such disasters are often triggered by the absence of fire extinguishers or a violation of fire safety codes. The difficulty in managing crowd behavior during rush hours or events, along with poor coordination among stakeholders, due to communication delays, lack of funds, coordination gap between agencies such as Superintendent of Police and District Magistrate, underdeployment and inadequate briefing of security personnel on crowd control, and lack of CCTV surveillance of crowd can further exacerbate these situations. In response to these challenges, the National Disaster Management Authority has outlined crucial guidelines for effective crowd management. An emergency response plan should be in place, encompassing alert mechanism and resource mobilization to address unforeseen circumstances. Strategies for managing crowds during events are essential, including thorough risk analysis and preparedness. This involves identifying potential hazards such as stampedes and risk associated with them. Timely information management and dissemination also play a vital role in preventing and managing crowd-related disasters. Moving ahead, a report titled The Indian Economy, a review has been released by Department of Economic Affairs. This review takes stock of the state of the Indian economy and its journey in the last 10 years and offers a brief sketch of the outlook for economy in coming years. In 10 years, India has moved from 10th largest economy of the world to 5th largest economy of the world. Let's start by first understanding the factors making Indian economy resilient. If we talk in terms of domestic economy, then the economy is projected to grow over 7% and become third largest globally in the next 3 years, reaching a GDP of $5 trillion. India's robust digital public infrastructure has transformed authentication ecosystem, reducing the cost of conducting eKYC from Rs 1,000 to Rs 5. Further, if we talk about the aspect of macroeconomic stability, then the Price Stabilization Fund, set up in 2014-15, has been effective in tackling price volatility. Also, understanding the human resources factor, then 13.5 crore Indians escaped multi-dimensional poverty between 2015-16 and 2019-21. Female labor force participation rate rose from 23.3% in 2017-18 to 37% in 2022-23. Moreover, if we have a look at India's external sector, then we can see that India is the largest recipient of worker remittances in the world, receiving $125 billion in the year 2023. Also, external debt as a ratio to GDP fell to 18.6% at the end of September 2023 from 22.4% in 2013. Confronting the Indian economy presents multifaceted challenges in the contemporary global landscape. The escalating geo-economic fragmentation and the deceleration of hyper-globalization pose hurdles. There exists a delicate trade-off between ensuring energy security and fostering economic growth while simultaneously navigating the imperative shift towards a sustainable energy transition. Domestically, the challenge lies in cultivating a skilled workforce and ensuring age-appropriate learning outcomes across all educational levels to meet the demands of a rapidly evolving industry. Furthermore, the advent of artificial intelligence adds another layer of complexity, with an IMF paper estimating that a substantial 40% of global employment is susceptible to the transformative impact of AI. Moving ahead, Framework for Voluntary Carbon Market in Agriculture sector has been launched by Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. Let's start by first understanding about carbon market. A carbon market is a system where carbon credits are bought and sold to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. A carbon credit represents the removal or avoidance of a ton of carbon or greenhouse gas equivalent. There are mainly two major types of carbon market. First is compliance markets, which are regulated by governments or international bodies and require certain industries or countries to participate. Another is voluntary carbon markets, where carbon credits are traded voluntarily without any legal obligation. Buyers and sellers can be individuals, corporations, or governments. The urgent need for a comprehensive framework for voluntary carbon market in the agriculture sector is underscored by the significant emissions originating from Indian agriculture, contributing nearly 15% of the country's greenhouse gas emissions. The sector is particularly vulnerable due to factors such as the dependence on rain-fed cultivation for about 50% of the cultivated area and the predominance of small and marginal farmers, making them highly susceptible to climate change impacts. The National Mission on Sustainable Agriculture 2010 emphasizes adaptation measures like agroforestry, microirrigation, and soil health management to mitigate emissions and enhance carbon sequestration potential. By harnessing these resources, farmers not only contribute to emission reduction but also create an additional source of income. The Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers' Welfare also launched the Accreditation Protocol of Agroforestry Nurseries, which will strengthen institutional arrangements for production and certification of planting material. Moving on to the next news. World Health Organization has awarded countries for progress in eliminating industrially produced trans fat for the first time. WHO has awarded first-ever validation certificates to Denmark, Lithuania, Poland, Saudi Arabia, and Thailand in eliminating industrially produced trans fatty acids. A total of 53 countries now have best practice policies in effect for tackling industrially produced trans fatty acids in food, improving the food environment for 46% of the world's population. In order to be validated for trans fat elimination, countries should demonstrate a best practice for industrially produced trans fatty acids elimination policy is in effect in country, and applicant country has adequate monitoring and enforcement systems in place. If we talk about WHO criteria for best practices in industrially produced trans fatty acids elimination policies, then these are mandatory national limit of 2 grams of industrially produced trans fatty acids per 100 grams of total fat in all foods. Mandatory national ban on production or use of partially hydrogenated oils as an ingredient in all foods, and combination of partially hydrogenated oils ban and industrially produced trans fatty acids 2% limit. Now let's also discuss about trans fats. These are unsaturated fats produced from vegetable oils. There are 2 forms of trans fat, that is naturally occurring trans fats which consist dairy and meat products, and industrially produced trans fat which consist packaged foods and cooking oils. Also, they are a source of non-communicable disease and are associated with increased risk of heart attacks. Now let's have a look at the steps taken to regulate trans fats acids in India. Introduction of Eat Right India movement by Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. Also, FSSAI made it mandatory to declare trans fats acid content on nutrition labels. If we talk about initiatives taken on global level, then these include a Replace initiative by WHO, which stands for Review Dietary Sources of Industrially Produced Trans Fat, promote replacement of industrially produced trans fat, legislate to eliminate industrially produced trans fat, assess trans fat content in food supply, create awareness of negative health impacts, and to enforce compliance with policies. The personality news for today is Field Marshal K.M. Cariappa. Recently, the 125th birth anniversary of K.M. Cariappa was celebrated. Now let's have a look at his contributions. He served as first Indian Commander-in-Chief of the Indian Army from 1949 to 1953. He was instrumental in integration of troops and turning an imperial army into a national army. He also raised the Brigade of the Guards and parachute regiments on an all-India caste composition. He was conferred with the Order of the Chief Commander of the Legion Merit in 1949 by US President and Order of the British Empire for his role in the Second World War. He exhibited the values of courage, compassion, and integrity. As we conclude today's main news, let's take a look at some quick updates. A committee headed by the Chief Justice of India designated 56 lawyers and advocate on record as senior advocates, 11 of them women. Supreme Court Rules 2013 prescribe eligibility criteria for an AOR. AOR means an advocate who is entitled under these rules to act as well as to plead for a party in court. Government amends Central Civil Services Pension Rules 2021. The amendment allows female employees or pensioners to grant family pension to their eligible child or children after their own demise instead of their spouse. Previously, family pension was granted to the spouse of a deceased government servant or pensioner, while other family members became eligible only after the spouse's ineligibility or demise. A tiger had strayed into a village in Haryana from Sariska Tiger Reserve. Sariska Tiger Reserve is located in Aravali Hills in Alwar district of Rajasthan. It was declared as a wildlife sanctuary and national park. Successful diversion of Chenab River achieved at Ratle Hydroelectric Project in Jammu and Kashmir. Chenab River formed by 2 streams, Chandra and Baga, which join near Kelong in Himachal Pradesh. Hence, it is also known as Chandrabaga. River flows for 1,180 kilometers before entering into Pakistan. Chenab is the largest tributary of Indus. Recently, Indian grey wolf was sighted in National Chambal Sanctuary, which is its first confirmed sighting in the region in about 2 decades. National Chambal Sanctuary is a tri-state protected area. It was set up in 1979 as a riverine sanctuary along Chambal River. It is listed as an important bird area and is a proposed Ramsar site. UN officials urged countries to reconsider their decision to suspend the funding for the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees. It established as a subsidiary organ of the United Nations General Assembly in 1949. Its objective is to provide assistance and protection to Palestinian refugees registered with it. Photonic crystals are optical nanostructures in which the refractive index changes periodically. Refractive index is the measure of the bending of a ray of light when passing through one medium into another. Photonic crystals occur in nature in the form of structural coloration and animal reflectors. Goa-based National Institute of Oceanography has launched an autonomous underwater vehicle called Seabot. Seabot is a robot with advanced features of increased surveillance over coral reefs. It can travel to a depth of 200 meters underwater. It will help the Indian Navy perform bathymetry studies to help plot navigation channels. It will help in finding the active hydrothermal vents where geothermally heated water seeps up from deep below the ocean floor. Before we go, it's time to put your knowledge to test in today's segment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you have enjoyed this edition of News Today. To get the answers to today's quiz and to download the PDF of News Today, make sure to check out the links in the description below.